This story is inspired by real events and documented moments from Amy Winehouse's life. Some scenes have been dramatized to capture the emotional truth of her legacy and the people who knew her. He stood at the back, away from the family, away from the celebrities, away from the cameras. Nobody recognized him. Nobody knew who he was, but everyone noticed him. Because while 200 people wept openly at Amy Winehouse's funeral, this man stood perfectly still, face expressionless, eyes dry, watching everything. July 26, 2011, Tuesday morning, Edgwarebury Cemetery in North London. The sun was too bright for a funeral, the sky too blue. Like the universe hadn't gotten the memo that Amy Winehouse was dead. The cemetery gates were surrounded by paparazzi, hundreds of them. Cameras clicking, telephoto lenses pointed at every car that arrived. The world wanted to see grief, wanted to capture famous faces crying, wanted the money shot. Inside the gates, 200 mourners gathered. Family, friends, celebrities, industry people, everyone who'd loved Amy, everyone who'd failed to save her. Mitch Winehouse stood at the front, Amy's father, looking 10 years older than he had a week ago, his face gray, his eyes hollow, about to deliver a eulogy for his 27-year-old daughter. Janice Winehouse sat nearby, Amy's mother, clutching tissues, being held up by Amy's brother Alex, the family that had tried everything, done everything, and still lost her. Mark Ronson was there, the producer who'd helped create Back to Black, who'd made Amy a superstar, who'd watched her spiral and couldn't stop it. Kelly Osbourne sobbed openly. Amy's friend, one of the few celebrities who'd actually known her, not just the tabloid version, the real Amy, Nick Grimshaw, Bryan Adams, Diane Bromfield, Amy's goddaughter, all there, all devastated. Reg Travis, Amy's boyfriend, the man she'd been dating when she died, looking lost, shattered, like part of him had died too. The press noted everyone who attended, cataloged every famous face, analyzed what they wore, how they looked, whether they cried enough, but there was one person they didn't note, one face they didn't recognize, one mourner who appeared in no photographs, no reports, no coverage, the man at the back. He was maybe 60. Gray hair, expensive suit, dark sunglasses despite being indoors. He stood alone, separate from everyone, like he didn't belong but couldn't stay away. Rabbi Frank Hellner led the service. Jewish tradition, simple, respectful, the kind of funeral Amy would have wanted if she'd ever thought about dying. She hadn't, not really, despite everything, despite the drugs and the drinking and the public meltdowns. Amy never really believed she'd die young, but she had. Saturday, July 23rd, found dead in her Camden Square flat. Alcohol poisoning. Her bodyguard discovered her twice. Once in the morning when he thought she was sleeping. Then again, hours later, when he realized she wasn't breathing. 27 years old. The 27 Club, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, now Amy. The ceremony began. Mitch stepped forward to speak. His hands shook. His voice broke on the first word. But he pushed through. Told stories about Amy as a child, her talent, her humor, her massive, overwhelming heart, the way she loved people completely, recklessly, dangerously. She told me recently, Mitch said, voice cracking, "Dad, I've had enough. I can't stand the look on your and the family's faces anymore." People in the crowd sobbed harder. Amy had been trying, at the end, trying to get clean, trying to stop hurting the people she loved. But trying wasn't enough. It never had been. Mitch continued his eulogy. 20 minutes of memories, of love, of loss, his voice steady sometimes, breaking others, the whole room crying with him. And then something strange happened. A black butterfly appeared, out of nowhere, in a closed room. It fluttered around Mitch's head as he spoke, landed on his shoulder, stayed there for several seconds before flying away. Everyone saw it. Everyone froze. In Jewish tradition, butterflies at funerals are considered messages from the deceased, a sign they're at peace. "That's Amy," someone whispered. "She's here." Mitch smiled through his tears, touched his shoulder where the butterfly had been, continued speaking. "Good night, my angel," he finished, his voice barely audible. "Sleep tight. Mummy and Daddy love you ever so much." The room was silent except for crying. 200 people destroyed by grief, except for one. The man at the back stood perfectly still, no tears, no emotion visible on his face, just watching, always watching. Kelly Osbourne noticed him first. She'd been scanning the crowd, looking for familiar faces, looking for support, and she saw him. This stranger, this man nobody seemed to know. She leaned over to Mark Ronson, whispered, "Who's that?" Mark looked, shrugged. "No idea. Never seen him before." Kelly frowned. Something about the man bothered her. The way he stood apart, the way he watched, like he was studying them, cataloging their grief. After the ceremony, mourners filed out slowly, heading to Golders Green Crematorium for the cremation, then to a nearby synagogue for the private gathering after. The man at the back didn't follow. He stayed in the cemetery, watching everyone leave, waiting until the crowd dispersed. Then he walked to where the ceremony had been held, stood in the exact spot where Amy's casket had rested, stared at the ground for a long time. Kelly watched him from her car, curious now, concerned. "Should we ask him who he is?" she said to her driver. "Probably just a fan," the driver replied. "Someone who got past security." But Kelly didn't think so. Fans don't stand like that. Don't watch like that. Don't remain so perfectly emotionless at the funeral of someone they admired. This was something else. The man finally moved, walked out of the cemetery through a side gate, away from the paparazzi, away from the crowds, disappeared into North London like he'd never been there. Kelly meant to mention it to Mitch, to ask if he knew who the mystery man was. But the day was so overwhelming, so full of grief and ceremony and pain, she forgot. Everyone forgot. For 3 days, the man remained a footnote, a strange detail noticed by a few people, mentioned to no one. Then Mitch Winehouse received a letter. It arrived on Friday, 4 days after Amy's funeral, hand-delivered to his house. No return address, just his name written in neat, precise handwriting. Inside was a single page, typed, formal, and completely shocking. "Dear Mr. Winehouse, you don't know me, but I knew your daughter. Not the Amy the world saw. The Amy before all of that. The Amy who came to my office 16 years ago with dreams of being a singer. I'm writing because I need you to know something. Something I've kept secret for nearly 2 decades. Something Amy made me promise never to tell. But now that she's gone, I think you deserve to know the truth. Your daughter was more than just talented. She was genius, pure, undeniable genius. And the music industry almost destroyed her before she even began. I was there. I saw it happen, and I did nothing to stop it. That's why I attended her funeral. Not to mourn. I have no right to mourn, but to witness, to see the final chapter of a story I helped write. I'll understand if you don't want to hear from me, but if you do, I have things to tell you about Amy. Things that might help you understand why she struggled so much, why the industry broke her long before the drugs ever did. I owe her that much, even if it's 16 years too late. Sincerely, Michael Rothman, former A&R executive, Universal Music, UK. Mitch read the letter 3 times, his hands shaking, his mind racing. Michael Rothman. The name meant nothing to him. Amy had never mentioned anyone by that name, never talked about a Michael. But 1995, 16 years ago, Amy would have been 12, just starting to dream about music, before she'd signed with anyone, before Frank, before everything. What could have happened then? What secret had Amy kept for 16 years? Mitch called his son Alex, read him the letter over the phone. "Do you know this guy?" Mitch asked. "Michael Rothman? Never heard of him," Alex said. "Want me to look him up?" "Yes, please." Alex searched, found Michael Rothman quickly. There were dozens on LinkedIn, but only one in the music industry. "Here," Alex said. "Michael Rothman, 62 years old, former A&R executive at Universal Music. Worked there from 1989 to 2008. Left under... Oh? What? Mitch asked. Left under controversial circumstances, Alex read. There was some kind of scandal, contract dispute, artists claiming he'd manipulated them into signing unfair deals. He was never charged with anything, but the company let him go. Mitch felt cold. Manipulated artists? That's what it says. And Amy met with him when she was 12. Alex was quiet. Dad, if Amy never mentioned him, then maybe he did something, Mitch finished. Something she wanted to forget. Should we call the police? And tell them what? Mitch asked. A man sent me a letter? A man who did nothing illegal as far as we know? So what do we do? Mitch looked at the letter again. At the address listed at the bottom, a phone number, an invitation to call. I'm going to talk to him, Mitch decided. I'm going to find out what he knows. Alex protested, said it wasn't safe, said Mitch was too emotional, said they should involve lawyers, investigators, someone professional. But Mitch didn't listen. He needed to know, needed to understand, needed to fill in the gaps of Amy's life that he'd never seen. He called the number. Michael Rothman answered on the second ring. Mr. Winehouse, he said. His voice was calm, professional, like he'd been expecting the call. Thank you for calling. Who are you? Mitch demanded. What did you do to my daughter? I did nothing to her, Michael said. But I let others do things, and that's worse. Can we meet? I'd like to explain in person. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, Michael said simply. But I have recordings, documents, things Amy wanted preserved but never knew how to release. Things that prove what really happened to her in 1995. What the industry did. What I let them do. Mitch's breath caught. Recordings of what? Her first demo session, Michael said, when she was 12 years old. The session that should have launched her career. The one that almost destroyed her instead. They met 2 days later. A cafe in Islington. Public place, daytime. Mitch brought Alex for backup. For witness. For safety. Michael Rothman was exactly as Kelly Osbourne had described him. 60-something, gray hair, expensive suit, face like carved stone, eyes that had seen too much. He sat alone at a corner table, a briefcase beside him, waiting. Mitch approached cautiously, sat down across from him. Alex stood nearby, protective, ready to intervene. Thank you for coming, Michael said. I know this must be difficult. You said you have recordings, Mitch said. No pleasantries, no small talk. Show me. Michael opened the briefcase, pulled out a folder. Inside were photographs, documents, a CD in a plastic case. In August 1995, Michael began, a talent scout named Sarah Greenfield heard Amy singing at a local youth center. Amy was 12. Sarah was blown away. She contacted me immediately. Said she'd found a once-in-a-generation talent. He pushed a photograph across the table. A 12-year-old Amy, all big eyes and nervous smile, standing in what looked like a recording studio. Mitch's throat tightened. He'd never seen this photo, had no memory of this session. I arranged a demo recording, Michael continued, brought Amy into our London studio, had our best producers work with her, recorded 3 songs. Amy never told me about this, Mitch said, because I made her sign a non-disclosure agreement, Michael said quietly. I told her and her parents it was standard procedure, that all potential signees did it, that it protected everyone. Protected you, you mean? Michael nodded. Yes, ultimately it protected us, not her. He pushed the CD across the table. This is the recording, 3 songs, 1 original Amy wrote herself, 2 covers, Billie Holiday songs? Why are you giving this to me? Mitch asked. Why now? Because of what happened after, Michael said. The recording was perfect. Amy was perfect. 12 years old with the voice of a 40-year-old jazz veteran. We all knew she'd be a star. He paused, looked at his hands. So we brought in the label heads, played them the demo. They loved it, wanted to sign her immediately. But, Mitch prompted. But they wanted to change her, Michael said. They said Amy was too jazz, too old-fashioned, too niche. They wanted her to sing pop, to be more like the Spice Girls, more commercial, more safe. Mitch felt his anger rising. And Amy refused, Michael said. She was 12 years old, and she told a room full of executives that she wouldn't compromise her music, that jazz was who she was, that she'd rather not sign than betray what she loved. He smiled slightly, sad and proud at once. They hated that, called her difficult, unprofessional, said she'd never make it in the industry with that attitude. So they dropped her? Worse, Michael said. They blacklisted her, told every other label in London that Amy Winehouse was trouble, that she was unmanageable, that no one should work with her. Mitch stared. She was 12. I know, Michael whispered, and I let it happen. I was in that room. I heard what they said, and I said nothing. I protected my job, my reputation, my future, and I destroyed a child's dream. That's why Amy never talked about this, Alex said quietly. She thought she'd failed, thought she wasn't good enough. She thought the industry rejected her because she lacked talent, Michael said, when the truth was the opposite. They rejected her because she had too much integrity, too much backbone, too much self at 12 years old to be molded into what they wanted. Mitch picked up the CD, held it carefully, like it might break. Have you listened to this? Many times, Michael said. It haunted me. Still does. Amy at 12 sounded exactly like Amy at 27. The same voice, the same phrasing, the same soul. She knew who she was from the beginning, and we tried to destroy that. She succeeded eventually, Mitch said. Frank came out in 2003, Back to Black in 2006. She proved you all wrong. But at what cost? Michael asked. 8 years of rejection, 8 years of being told she wasn't good enough, 8 years of pain that fed into addiction, into self-destruction, into the spiral that killed her. He leaned forward. Mr. Winehouse, I'm not saying this to absolve myself. There's no absolution for what I did. I'm telling you because you deserve to know. Amy's struggles didn't start with Blakefield or Civil, didn't start with fame. They started at 12, when the industry she loved rejected her for being exactly who she was. Mitch was crying now, silently, tears running down his face. Why didn't she tell me? Because she thought she'd failed you, Michael said. Thought she'd disappointed you. The NDA prevented her from explaining what really happened. So she carried that shame for 16 years. The NDA, Alex said suddenly. Do you still have it? Michael pulled out another document, the original non-disclosure agreement, signed by 12-year-old Amy, countersigned by Universal Music executives. It's void now, Michael said. Amy's death nullifies it. That's why I can finally tell this story, why I can release these recordings. He pushed everything across the table. The CD, the photographs, the documents, the NDA. It's all yours. Do with it whatever you think is right. Release the recordings, sue the label, burn it all. Whatever brings you peace. Why now? Mitch asked again. Why wait until she's dead? Michael's face finally showed emotion, pain, regret, devastating guilt. Because I'm a coward, I kept this secret for 16 years to protect myself. Even after Amy became famous, even after I left Universal, I stayed silent. But then she died, and I attended her funeral, watched you eulogize her, watched 200 people mourn, and I realized I had to stop being a coward. Had to tell the truth, even if it destroys what's left of my reputation. Even if it accomplishes nothing, I owe her that much. The cafe was silent except for the normal sounds of people drinking coffee, living their lives, unaware of the conversation happening in the corner. Mitch stared at the pile of documents, at the CD containing 12-year-old Amy's voice, at the truth that had been hidden for 16 years. I don't know whether to thank you or hit you, Mitch said finally. Both would be fair, Michael replied. Did you love her? Mitch asked. My daughter. Did you even see her as human? I saw her as product, Michael admitted, as potential profit, as a means to advance my career. That's how the industry trains you to see artists, not as people, as assets. He paused. But yes, in the end, I loved her. Not romantically, not even personally. But I loved what she represented. Integrity, authenticity, the refusal to compromise, everything the industry tries to beat out of artists. Amy never let them. She stayed herself until the end. And that's rare, beautiful, important. She paid for it with her life, Mitch said bitterly. I know, Michael said. We all failed her. The industry, the press, the people around her, everyone who should have protected her. He stood to leave. I won't contact you again. This is goodbye. But please know that whatever you decide to do with those recordings, I'll support. Even if it means exposing my own failures. Even if it destroys me. Amy deserves the truth to be told. He walked out of the cafe, disappeared into the London afternoon. Mitch never saw him again. But he listened to the CD that night, alone in his living room. Headphones on so the sound would be perfect. 3 songs. Recorded in August 1995. Amy at 12 years old. Her voice came through the speakers, young but fully formed, powerful, soulful, heartbreaking. She sang Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit with understanding no 12-year-old should have. Sang God Bless the Child like she'd lived it. Sang her original song titled Not for Sale about refusing to compromise her art. Mitch cried through all 3 songs. This was Amy, the real Amy. Before the fame and the drugs and the pain. Before Blake and the tabloids and the spiral. Just a 12-year-old girl who loved jazz and knew exactly who she was. And the industry had rejected her for it. Blacklisted her, told her she wasn't good enough. Traumatized her so deeply, she never spoke about it. No wonder she struggled. No wonder she self-medicated. No wonder she couldn't trust the people around her. The damage had been done years before anyone realized. Mitch considered releasing the recordings, exposing what Universal Music had done, using the documents Michael provided to prove the blacklist, to show the world how the industry had broken Amy before she even began. But in the end, he didn't. The Amy Winehouse Foundation became his focus instead, helping young people avoid his daughter's fate, protecting them from the industry's worst impulses, making sure no other 12-year-old got blacklisted for having integrity. The recordings remained private, listened to only by family, by people who loved Amy, who wanted to hear her voice at its purest. Michael Rothman disappeared after that meeting. No one in the industry heard from him again. Some said he moved abroad. Others said he died. Most said he finally got what he deserved, obscurity and irrelevance. But the truth was simpler. He kept his promise, stayed silent, let Amy's story be told by others, accepted that he'd been a coward and couldn't undo it. The mystery man at Amy's funeral, the stranger nobody recognized, turned out to be a ghost from Amy's past, a reminder of the industry's cruelty, of the damage done to a 12-year-old who refused to compromise. Kelly Osbourne eventually heard the story years later, when Mitch finally told a few close friends about Michael's confession. I knew something was wrong with that guy, she said. The way he stood there, so guilty, so separate from everyone else. He was paying his respects, Mitch said, in his own broken way. Do you forgive him? Kelly asked. Mitch thought about it, really thought about it. No, he said finally, but I understand him. That's not the same thing, but it's something. The black butterfly that appeared during Mitch's eulogy became part of Amy's legend. People who'd been there told the story over and over, how it came from nowhere, how it landed on Mitch's shoulder, how it felt like Amy saying goodbye. Some said butterflies can't survive in closed rooms, that it must have been hiding somewhere, that it was coincidence. But Mitch knew better. Amy had a flair for drama, for making statements, for showing up when it mattered. Of course she'd send a butterfly. Of course she'd make her presence known. Of course she'd remind everyone she was still there, still fierce, still herself. That's who Amy was, from 12 to 27. In the first demo recording and the last, never compromising, never backing down, never being anything less than exactly who she was. The industry couldn't handle it. The world couldn't handle it. Blake couldn't handle it. Even Amy herself couldn't always handle it. But she never stopped being herself. And that's what mattered, what lasted, what the mystery man at her funeral had finally recognized. Too late to save her, but not too late to tell the truth. Michael Rothman's revelation changed nothing and everything. Amy was still dead. The industry was still cruel. The damage couldn't be undone, but the family knew, and knowing helped. Understanding that Amy's struggles began long before anyone realized that a 12-year-old's rejection planted seeds of pain that grew for 15 years. It didn't excuse the addiction, didn't excuse the choices Amy made, but it contextualized them, made them make sense in a sad, devastating way. The mystery man's identity shocked the music world, not because of who he was, but because of what he represented. The hidden damage, the secret trauma, the institutional cruelty that destroys artists before they even begin. Every artist has a Michael Rothman story, a moment when the industry tried to break them, mold them, force them into boxes that don't fit. Most artists survive by compromising, by giving in, by becoming what the industry demands. Amy never did. At 12, she said no. At 27, she was still saying no. And it killed her. But God, what a voice, what a spirit, what an absolute refusal to be anything less than herself. That's Amy Winehouse's legacy, not the addiction, not the tabloids, not the tragedy, the refusal, the integrity, the 12-year-old who looked a room full of executives in the eye and said, "I'd rather not sign than betray what I love." And the mystery man at her funeral? He carried that refusal with him for 16 years. Let it haunt him. Let it destroy him. Finally, let it free him. Not redemption. Michael Rothman didn't deserve that. But truth? Finally, after all that time. Too late for Amy, but not too late for her legacy. Not too late for the young artists who'd follow her, who'd face the same pressure, the same demands to compromise. Some would remember Amy, remember her refusal, remember that you can say no, even at 12, even when the industry says you're wrong, even when it costs everything, you can say no. That's what the mystery man came to witness. That's what he finally understood. And that's what he spent the rest of his life trying to atone for. Never quite succeeding, but always trying. Because Amy Winehouse taught him that integrity matters, that authenticity costs, that some things are worth protecting even when the price is everything. He learned it too late to save her, but maybe, just maybe, in time to save someone else. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, please reach out for help. The Amy Winehouse Foundation continues her legacy by supporting vulnerable young people. You're not alone. The Amy Winehouse Foundation, www.amywinehousefoundation.org UK. Addiction support, Frank, $0-300, 1-23, 6600. U.S. addiction support, say MHSA National Helpline, 1-1-800-662-4357.